what is the fastest way to increase the impact of your teaching? Let me just read you something. I just wanted to reach out to you and congratulate you on this. This is not me, by the way. I just wanted to reach out to you and congratulate you on the outstanding student feedback we've been receiving from the MBA 2021 class. I know you've put a great deal of effort into taking feedback from last year on board. It's definitely paying off as students are raving. I got this email from the program director of the MBA at London Business School, and I had to find out who is this person who suddenly, almost overnight, certainly from one course to the next, turned around the impact of their training. So I have as my guest on this webinar the man behind this. But before I do, let me say that at the end of this program, I'm going to spend a few minutes sharing with you some more information about the International Teachers Program, if you're interested. But right now, let me introduce today's guest. Andrea Galleotti, you're Professor of Economics at LBS, Microeconomics, Industrial Organization, Game Theory. These are all your sort of topic areas. All heavyweight stuff, by the way. You're killer. But you were at Florence until recently, if I remember rightly. It was last year or a couple of years back. How long have you been at LBS?
Yes, indeed, Steve. I arrived in LBS a year and 2 months ago.
Wow. And you're counting the days. That's not good. You should just say 2 years now. I was really impressed. You got this Leverhulme Prize. That's for the best economist in the UK. One of the best economists in the UK under the age of 35. I mean, you are horribly young, my friend. That's just...
That was a few years ago.
No, come on.
Years ago, yeah.
You got no white hairs up there. I can see this. But also, you're full professor, managing editor of, or you were managing editor of the Economic Journal, and you're now co-editor of the Review of Economic Studies.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
I mean, I'm here to explore teaching with you, but it sounds like you haven't got any time for teaching. But, save your blushes. I just got this from the director of the MBA program at LBS, Barbara Manzanares. And she said, and you can look away if you want, you don't have to. I just wanted to reach out to you and congratulate you on the outstanding student feedback we've been receiving from the MBA 2021 class regarding your core microeconomics course. I know you put a great deal of effort into taking feedback from last year on board. I think there's a story here. It's definitely paying off as students are raving. The students really appreciate your enthusiastic delivery and were very impressed by the fact that you reached out to the whole class prior to the first session to introduce yourself and the topic. Thank you for your continued contribution and for helping get MBA 2021 off to such a great start. What the heck happened? I feel
a bit embarrassed now. I can tell you everything about what happened. And I need to, I'm not going to start from 20 years ago, but almost. In the last 15 years, I essentially dedicated my time in doing research. And, I've managed to do a few good things in research. And a couple of years ago, I decided to rebalance a little bit my life. And I really wanted to go and understand a little bit better also the world of teaching. So when I started to talk with LBS, at that time I was in Florence, I knew that moving to LBS would have been a change, because of course in LBS research is very important, but teaching is also very important. We are offering a very expensive program to students, and students are expecting to have outstanding learning experience. And I didn't have any experience on teaching, or very limited experience on teaching. But I took the challenge. I thought that, I was not anymore 35. So I thought, maybe it was a good moment. It was a good moment for me to try to, to rebalance a little bit my career. And I started last year teaching the MBA. So the first year that I was at LBS, I taught the whole MBA program, and I taught the core course of microeconomics, which is not the easiest course to teach. And I put a lot of effort, really a lot of effort. But the email from Barbara years ago was not as nice as the email that you just read. It came more or less in the same period after session 3, but students were not as happy as they were this year. And it was not because of lack of effort. This is what really upset me. Not that students were not happy. Of course, that was like a bit unupsetting, but I was really upset because I put a lot of effort. And as an economist, if you put a lot of effort and you see that there is no return, you understand that your investment has been extremely unsuccessful. And that was really made me upset. And I understood that I had to do something.
How big are the classes, the MBA classes at London? Remind me.
So I was teaching 6 streams, and each stream is around 80 students.
Wow.
So I was teaching 6 sessions every week. Each session is just short of 3 hours, so it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. And I had 80 students in each stream. And this was my first experience with MBA. So I started brave.
It's like in a bear pit, isn't it? I mean, they're pretty tough, right?
They are tough, they are demanding, and you need to entertain and interact with them for 2 hours and 45 minutes every week, talking about microeconomics. And I just didn't know what went wrong. I just didn't understand because I put a lot of effort. I thought, that I was clear. I thought that I had a good relationship with them. But when I look at the evaluation at the end of the year, I had few students that really liked me, but a lot of students that really hated me.
So let's just drill into this for a second, because this is an experience that many faculty have. I've had, many faculty have. So what were the classes like? Were mainly PowerPoint driven, or exercises or readings? How did you structure that class?
I was structuring that class in a very simple way. I had all these slides I don't use PowerPoint, but something like PowerPoint. Yeah. And yes, and I was just going through the slides for 2 hours and 45 minutes. And I thought that was the right thing to do it. And so the class was structured in a way that was not interactive. And ex post, now when I look at 1 year ago, I understand why students were upset. But at that point, I didn't. And not only that, I was also focused very much on myself. I probably was very tense. It was the first time teaching. I was really focused on what I was talking about. I couldn't see, the students. I didn't see how the students were reacting. I was in a little bubble. And of course, few students liked it. And these students were always talking and they were participating. And because they were doing that, for me, everyone was on board.
So for some people, they love the intellectual stimulation.
Exactly.
For them, it's a great, one-to-one conversation almost.
Exactly. It was one-to-one conversation. And for me, they were the representative students. The other didn't exist, but not because I didn't care, just because I was not able to see them. I was in my little bubble.
We assume everybody is, the superstars represent the whole class, right?
Exactly. So I was totally detached by the student. But again, not because of lack of interest or anything, just because of lack of inexperience and just because teaching is a difficult job and you need to learn. You need to learn how to teach.
That's a fascinating point, because, people would say that, okay, PhD, professorship, smart guy, in all of that education, had there not been anything on teaching? There must have been something, surely.
No, really. No, my only teaching experience was teaching to PhD students, which is proper teaching, but it's very different. It's a different content. The type of people that you are teaching are much more homogeneous. They are the same. People doing the PhD is a small group, 10 people. There is not a lot of variety, and the way in which these people are looking at the subject is very much homogeneous across all your audience. something that is extremely different when you are teaching at an MBA, where in each room, even this year when I was teaching, in each stream that I was teaching, there were 33 nationalities represented, which is amazing. But think about how much cultural variety there is in that room. And I was just focusing on 2 or 3 people that were talking to me. And that was clearly not a success. So I knew that I had to do something, but I didn't know what I had to do.
So how did it come up? How did you find out about what to do next? Who did you speak with? What were the steps you took?
My reaction, as soon as I saw that things were going wrong, my reaction was to contact people that have more experience than me. So I contacted all the professors that I knew that they were good teachers, and I said, "This is a disaster. I made the wrong choice. What I'm gonna do?" And they told me all their experience. They told me to calm down, not to worry too much. That if I was putting effort and I was enthusiastic, things would have come out my own way. But they also told me that there was an opportunity to follow a program which is called the ITP, and I said, "What does it mean?" And they said, "International Teaching Program." And I said, "Oh my God!" International Teaching Program. I need to go there and write essay. That was what came in my mind. And then they told me, "No, it's a good program. Actually, this year is at LBS, so you should follow it." And I tell you, and I said, "Yes, I'm going to do it." But I tell you why I say yes. I say yes because I didn't have much other opportunities. So I said, okay, it's an opportunity. And also, I want to be very honest. I said yes because I said at the end of the year, I need to do a review. At least I'm going to show to the school that I'm really trying to improve. That was really because I didn't really think that this program would have been useful for me. I just assumed that, it was some, I'm Italian, as you may have understood, this program was a bit of a blah, blah, blah with some pedagogical learning points with no practical relevance. And that was my initial belief. And I could have not been more wrong with that belief. I keep saying everybody that I meet that the ITP was for me one of the most important experience in my last 10 years. This is one of the moments in which I have learned most. And so the ITP was really, really something that has changed the way in which I think about teaching.
Well, this we have to drill into. So, I don't need chapter and verse on the whole of things, but there's probably in the top of your mind, 2 or 3, I don't know, moments, ideas, or themes that crop up and you think yes, or you facepalm. That's just so obvious. Why didn't I think of that? Tell me something. What was, I guess, top of mind? When did it start? Was it the beginning of the pro?
Yeah. I'm very happy to share a couple of how do you call them? You call me like the wow moments, right? Yeah. So I think I have 3 wow moments, and another wow moments that is related to the ITP. So the first one was actually the first lecture that I follow. The first lecture. So this was good, because I arrived there with no much, beliefs that the program would have helped me. And this was I remember it was on Sunday, the 6th of January. In Italy, we celebrate the end of Christmas, really, and the Epiphany. So, and I was there. It was a Sunday, and the first lecture was given by Par Martenson. And it was called Learning Styles. And Par is now is actually he became a friend, and he came to see one of my sessions very recently. And Par showed one slide with it was like a 4x4 table, And the point of that table, and in the table, it was written activist, reflector, theorist, and pragmatist. And he said, people learn in different ways. I said, what? People learn in different ways. How do I learn? And then I look at these things and say, yes, I am a theorist, but I also like pragmatism. So whenever I do theories, I also need to have an exercise where I put numbers and I see that comes out the way in which my theories say. Oh, yeah, so I'm there. But I mean, everyone must be like that. And, of course, everyone is a theorist and a pragmatist. What does it mean to be an activist? But then you start reflecting and you start talking with the people that are close to you, the other students that are there with you. And you see, oh, now I see why, certain people didn't really follow, because I was teaching to myself. That's what I was doing. The previous years, I just taught to 80 students. They come from 34 different nationalities. They have different backgrounds. People are more technical backgrounds. Some other people are coming more from humanities. And I'm just teaching in the way that I learn. Of course, there are a few people like me, but the others, they're just totally lost. And that was like a big learning point, because you understand that when you teach, you don't teach for yourself, you teach for everybody. And understanding, Par was also very nice because he's also show us some research, and some statistics about all these different types. We also did a survey before going to the ITP. So we also saw what was the distribution of these types in our group. So we could see that in fact this theory had a practical relevance. And you could see that in fact, if you start taking into consideration that there are these different types, and you structure your session to make everybody in the lecture have the opportunity to grasp that particular concept based on the way in which they learn, then that will make a very different experience. So that was the first point, very important.
And that's really the Kolb learning cycle from experiential learning, if I remember right.
Exactly. Learning styles that, of course, goes together with learning cycles. Now you want to create the whole session in a way that you're going to cycles around all these types. Also because each of us is not just one type. Okay, we are a bit of everything. So if we can touch upon all our aspects in which our mind learn, then at the end we really have an experience which is complete, and is more likely that whatever we have learned sticks in our mind.
What I loved about it is it's so rich, and I think Kolb originally was writing in early 80s, if I'm not 1980s. So this is material that we know about, and so it's pretty rigorous and has been tested, but it's not commonly shared. And I think for people at the cutting edge as you are, I think it's great that you've now been exposed to it, because we'll talk later about how you applied some of this stuff, but.
Absolutely. So it's So I don't remember when I studied in all the courses and that I follow as a student. I don't remember, professors that really took this into consideration. It was it's clearly important. I mean, so that was really a big learning point. And the second learning point was the second day. And I think the first. This it seems like a bit of a joke, but the first 3-4 days, there was like a revolution for me. It was really a revolution because, everything I'm going to say ex post, they are relatively, common sense. But things can be common sense, but if you don't see and you don't apply it, then it doesn't matter they're common sense. They need to be in your mind in order to apply, and they're not they're not so common sense, because we are generally not common sense is common once you see it. And so the other things was a nice lecture from Ray Smilor, and this was on Tuesday. And actually the title of the lecture, I remember because it was a beautiful title, was The Secrets of a Really Fantastic Lecture. And he gave a really fantastic lecture. Now, Ray, he arrived with a smile on his face, and he kept the smile on his face for the whole time. And you know, it was an hour and a half that in my mind was probably 10 minutes. It went so fast. Everything went so fast. And what did I really learn from him? First of all, he was not using PowerPoint or any device. He had like slides, but he was projecting slides like in the old time. And now, why is that important? Well, that was important because first of all, and this is also what he told us, it made that type of system made him comfortable. So for him, being comfortable meant that, you know, we were also comfortable. So this was another thing that whatever is the way in which you're going to deliver your session, you need to be comfortable. You need to be yourself. So this was a bit an important learning point, because when I arrived here at LBS, of course, you and I think I know this happening in a lot of business school, you get a lot of material from your colleagues. But the material from your colleagues is material that they have constructed for their personality. So if you force this material upon you, you're not natural there. You don't feel comfortable. And that is clearly going to be something the student will perceive. And so seeing him and say, okay, why is not using the computer? No, he's using that one because that is what makes him comfortable. And then you ask, why does that make you comfortable? Because I have control. I don't need to show a student that I'm not showing you a slide. I can just put it on the side and you don't know that I'm not showing you a slide. I have full control of what I want to show. If there is an interesting conversation about a particular point, I don't need to rush because I can eliminate something else and I can continue going. So this control is something that makes me comfortable, and so I use that. And and I thought that was really, I thought that was really important, because it created a comfortable environment for people to learn or to listen. And so one thing is the way you structure the session, which is clearly important. But then there is also the other aspect, which is, how you create an environment where people feel comfortable. And Ray was a master of that. I mean, he's a very good public speaker, but he was a master in creating an atmosphere which was enjoyable, and where you could see that he was very comfortable. So that was the second thing, which is a little bit more subtle than the 4 types, but I thought it is I think as important.
It's kind of, it strikes me as I've never seen him speak actually, but by reputation, and what a great name, Ray Smiler. It seems to me this idea of being comfortable is much more about being authentic in a way. It's about being who you are in a way that you feel comfortable, so you can share the best knowledge you have in the best way that you know how. And it's not about us as pretending to be like the other professor, or as you were saying, using somebody else's material or this slide or this image or something like that. And it can be very simple, can't it?
Absolutely, very simple, just very simple. And authenticity is prized so much, because I think by being authentic, so you're also creating a connection, a human connection with your audience, with the student. They see that you are human, and you are really trying to create a connection, because at the end of the day, you want to provide a learning experience to the student, which is a real one, which is funny, which is entertaining, and which is a learning experience. Because that is at the end the objective. You want that they go out from your lecture that they have learned something. And it's much easier to learn from someone that from which you have like a human connection. You feel close to. And
already you're talking in a very different way from, when you were the faculty just giving your slides and your knowledge. It's about giving my experience to them. Now you're talking about learning experience, and that's amazing difference there.
Oh, as I said, the ITP was for me one of the most important experience that I've done in my last 10 years.
In a few minutes, we'll talk about how you actually applied some of these things, but any other wow moments?
So very briefly, there is an amazing practical experience that you do the ITP, which is called Teaching Lab. My instructor was Christine De Valk. The idea is that there's a group of people and every person can present a topic in 10 minutes or 5 minutes, a very short amount of time. So that was the first time in which I had the opportunity to change the way in which I was expressing, or in which I was trying to deliver a concept, and was extremely useful because the environment is really is a safe environment. You're not judged, you're not evaluated by anybody. You can go there and you can experiment. I don't use the slide, I use the board. I don't use the board, I do an experiment. Or I'm just trying to do something which is really outside my comfort zone, but that I feel it can fit me, fit my personality. And this is an environment which you can do it. Is a perfect example of creating an experience in which you first learn some theory and then you apply it. And then you go back to the theory and you apply it again. And so the sort of round and it was just amazing. So that was a third things. But let me tell you what is the fourth, really, because I think this is actually very important for me. The fourth wow of the ITP, which was the following. I was a student again. You see, when I went the first time to teach to the MBA, for me, teaching that MBA course in that particular month was everything. Of course, I had my family, but from a work, in the workplace, the most important thing for me was that course, was that teaching. So I expected that everyone that came to that course was as committed to that course as me. But of course, those people that follow that course were students that are not, it's not that they're not committed because they don't care. They're not, which is what I assumed when they were not doing what I wanted them to do. They were not committed because they had other courses to follow. They had many other things to do. They had their own life. But in that moment, when I was teaching, I didn't understand that. I'm a bit naive, but I didn't understand that. So being in the ITP, it was a wonderful program. But there are moments, like in every program, in which your mind goes somewhere else because I think about my daughter, or my daughter is going to school, she has something, or my wife, or whatever, anything. Okay, and so just being a student, I said, oh my God, when I go and teach, I cannot teach expecting that they view this course the way I do it. I need to enter into the shoes of the students in order to understand their constraint and to also appreciate that sometimes they cannot do certain things, and hence I need to help them. So this was a really also, which is related to the other points, but this was also important to be student again. It was important because now I entered the classroom with a very different attitude. And I know students understand that. I understand it. Is everything more pleasant.
And it's almost one of those things that it's that experiential learning that one has. It's such a different meta level almost. It's not a content piece, but it's actually, as you say, the experience of being a student again. And Absolutely. You can almost, I find myself articulating to the students, I'm thinking about this, I'll put that to one side, literally sharing my thoughts, and then other people then can share, I've got this. And it almost becomes, do you see those American magicians animations, Penn and Teller. They do this. They do these wonderful illusions, and then they show you what they are. And when I first heard about these guys, I thought this is like crazy, because that's going to reduce the impact but it doesn't. Once you see exactly how they do it, you realize how much they invested in it. And it seems to me, the stories I'm hearing from you just brings that right back into my mind. Could you share with us how you then tackled the next core course, how you actually applied some of these things?
It was not difficult to apply.
Right.
It was.
Some people might expect it's going to take you hours to completely reconfigure everything.
It took time, because of course I really wanted to do things in a certain way. Now I think you can reconfigure by spending much less time than I did, but I just felt that I want to do certain things. So I first of all I eliminated the books that they were used, and I just wrote teaching notes. So every session had a particular set of teaching notes written by me that they were tailored to that particular session. And that was because I really wanted to give, in each teaching note, I wanted to have a story that was covering all the types. So the teaching note was every teaching note was about one question. But this question was approached in different ways. Was approached from a theoretical.
You have just glitched out on me.
Sorry?
That's okay. You just paused for a second, but carry on. So you're using the teaching notes I think my internet is unstable. I live in a weird village in the middle of the UK. So you're talking about teaching notes and using the learning styles. So you're writing different aspects in those ways to appeal to the activists and the reflectors.
Exactly. Every teaching note has one part which is that it answers one question. And this question is answered from a theoretical point of view. Then there is an exercise, and then there is an article from Financial Times or from The Guardian, wherever the article comes from, and it is analyzed through the lenses of macroeconomics. And this is done for every session. So every student, has the ability to go into it and test the theoretical aspect and also how to apply to an event, to a real event. So that was one thing. I gave up the PowerPoint and
completely.
Yes.
Wow.
I project everything like Ray does, and I find myself much more comfortable. And I structured the session similarly to the teaching notes. So, the session is, at the beginning is very clear. It gives very precise instruction of what we're going to do. And then it is divided, there's 2 hours and 45 minutes. So it is divided in 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes, there is a different activity. And there are 30 minutes in which I teach the theory. Some people say to MBA, you cannot teach the theory. There are 30 minutes in which I sit down, I have my electronic board, I have a ruler, I have a pen, and I do graphs, and I do, equations. As you will do to a PhD student or to an undergraduate student doing macroeconomics. And every student was there listening. Because, they're happy to listen for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, a way in which we can talk about a concept in a formal way. Students are happy. It's not true that the millennials don't want to do that. It's not true. They want. They just don't want only that. They don't want that you start and they don't know where you're going with that. But if you explain, look, this is really what we are going to study today. There are going to be a lot of application, and we're going to do all these application. But now for 20 minutes, you need to pay attention to me, and we do this graph together. They do it. They'll do it, and they're interested, and they're happy, and they are grateful to you that you do it. So, and it's not a graph that you put it there. It's constructed with them. So you build up every single thing of that graph and that figure with them. So I tried so this was really the way in which I implemented. I really took it seriously, this idea that there are different types. And once you have that in your mind, it's just a question of being clear how to provide a particular concept in a certain way. And that's specific to the subject. So it's not very interesting how you implement that, but the structure, it comes out very naturally, and you try to do the theory at the beginning, you try to do the exercise at the end because students is a bit more tired. These are things that, you will understand, once you start preparing the structure. So this was the way in which I implemented. I really took a few concepts very seriously. And I forced myself to be, it's nice, it's nice to have a framework, because once you have this framework, you just need to follow it. So I didn't have degree of freedom in how to structure a session. A session has to be structured in a particular way. There is a way to do it. It's like when you write a paper. When you write a research paper, there is the first paragraph. It has a particular meaning. The second paragraph has another meaning. The third paragraph has another meaning. All the good papers are written in that way. You don't deviate from that.
This is really helpful. I mean, so you're applying the learning styles in the teaching notes, which also is how you structure the sessions. How did you make yourself comfortable in the sort of Ray Smiler way? What apart from taking your ruler and doing the old school way of teaching? How else did you make yourself comfortable?
I made myself comfortable laughing with students about some aspect of myself. For example, my Italian accent, and trying to speak slowly so that student can follow my Italian accent, even if they're not Italian. And
you've got 33 different nationalities. It's not a trivial issue, is it? I mean,
absolutely.
They're listening in Italian English, and you're speaking in Italian English, so that's tough.
Absolutely. So trying to not taking myself too seriously, I think is nice, because it creates an atmosphere which is also enjoyable, and really being empathetic with students. Understanding that if they have a problem at any time during these 5 weeks, if they needed to see me because some people were struggling, not to be worried, just to send me an email, and I would have done everything to see them and help them. And once you do that, and didn't do it to get good at teaching evaluation. At the end of the day, in that 5 weeks, that's my life is about teaching to them. So if I can help them, I think that's a good things. And so I went to the classroom with the idea that if someone was struggling, or if someone maybe was not working as hard as he or she should have, I'm sure that he or she had a reason for that. And I wanted to give the opportunity to help in picking up with the course. And I think that that empathy, that is what Ray really transmitted when he was providing his amazing lecture. And I don't think I did as good as he did, but my intention was to reproduce an environment which was pleasant. And I think in many ways I succeeded. I mean, I know the students were there and happy to come to see a new session in macroeconomics. That's what you really want. You want that the student, when is the time to have microeconomics session 2? They come because they want to come, not because they need to tap their card.
And what I'm getting from you on this as well is, I can imagine some faculty, some young professors might be saying, but isn't what you're doing taking more content out of this? Because if they're doing this stuff, if they're engaged, and you're not sitting at the front, then how are they getting the content? But what I'm hearing from you is actually they're learning more, because if they switch off when you're delivering content, it's gone.
Yeah, they're learning much more, because when I deliver the content, if you like the academic content, they are there and they absorb it. And then, when they are engaged, it's not that they are engaged in drawing, Mickey Mouse. They are engaged in doing an exercise that is related to the content. And the exercise is done in group. And once they do the exercise, I go around and I talk to them and I see at what point they are. And after 25 minutes they've done that exercise, we go back all together and I go through the exercise with them. So it's not, getting out content. Is making the content not practical, but having like an exercise where you can actually see how you apply that particular content. Make it real, exactly. Even if the exercise is not real, even if the exercise is a simple, plotting a simple graph, is real, is concrete. And that is something that is much more likely to stick in your mind than
sticking in your mind is what it's all about, because it's going to be some while before they use some of this stuff, because it's going to be a year, 2, 3, 4 before they're in positions of seniority to be able to apply it. So it's got to stick for some period of time. And what I love too is you mentioned that Per Martensen came and sat in on your class. So you learned a lot in the teaching lab last year in ITP, but you're still carrying on. Use colleagues as a sounding board. Come in, sit in my session, give me some feedback.
Of course. I mean, I don't think, I clearly my experience this year, the experience that I provided to the student this year has been a huge improvement relative to last year. But this does not mean that this has been the perfect experience. And so, there is more to learn, and there are many other ways in which, one can improve the delivery. And and sometimes you cannot just spot these things by yourself, because giving a lecture is intense, and there are a lot of little aspects that you don't see. So having someone that comes and see you and tell you, it praise you, which is nice, but also tell you, look, on this side, maybe you need to be a little bit more careful when you make these sort of comments, or when you answer these certain questions, or maybe you could balance a little bit more the flow of the whole session. These are important. They're important observation. And so if someone can come and observe you, is important.
Really good. I've got a couple more things just to wrap it up with. I'm going to ask you for a couple of practical hints, but is there anything else? Any other sort of aha moments or anything that stuck with you above all?
I think this is, there have been, the ITP was fantastic experience, because you also meet many other people, and some of those people are already, delivering at a very high level teaching. Some other are more like I was. So there is a lot of variety in terms of also topics. Some are a little bit more technical topics. Some are a bit less technical, and there is a very nice atmosphere. So the ITP was, was a great experience to do, regardless of the teaching. It was I still talk to people that I met. We have a WhatsApp group, and sometimes we make jokes about stuff. And,
so the network it's because, of course, in the past 10 years you've been building your network of economists, professional economists, academic, but also in the real world. So, but this is a completely new network.
This is completely new networks, which is very nice, because it's done with people that. In their life, they're sharing, the one aspect, which is teaching, and also research. So it's a very important network. Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a couple of practical things, and then we'll begin to wrap it up. And you may not want to talk about this, but I often get queries about funding, for example. So you had heard about this program. What was your process of getting clearance for that? Because I'm guessing you don't have a budget for this sort of stuff.
No.
How did that happen?
So here, as I said, when I was looking for help, the chair of the econ group here at LBS told me that he did follow the ITP in the past, and that there was a space available to follow, and that LBS would have covered the expenses for that. So it was just my choice whether I wanted to do it or not. So I was clearly like in a very lucky position that I managed to follow the ITP without spending any money from my resource budget. So this is what happened in my particular case.
So folks could speak to their subject chair. There may be an existing arrangement. It may be that because I, as a new member of faculty, haven't heard of this program. It is well known around business schools in the world.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So I think talking with I think the first things I did really was to talk with the chair and to talk with other senior professor that I know had a lot of experience in teaching and a lot of experience at LBS. And so I think that's is the people that if you want. But also I want to say that the ITP is not just for people like me. I needed help, but I don't think it's only for people that need help. Absolutely, the ITP is for people that are interested in looking at in attending a serious program with serious people that tell you things about teaching, which is based a lot on research that has been done, is based on a lot of experiment that people have done. Not every session, not every tool that they will show you will fit you or the subject that you are teaching. But already the fact that at the end of the program you understand that is already learning. Okay, so the ITP is really, I'm not going to follow it again this year, but in 10 years, or maybe 5 years, or 6 years, or 7 years, I wouldn't mind to follow it again. Because, I'm sure that in 10 years, there's going to be something else to learn that, people have experimented. And so it's not, this is something, it's not just for people that I was desperate. Okay. I was really, my point is that I either change this or I go somewhere else. I'm not going to go every year to teach to the MBA and having these 5 weeks, which are horrible because everyone is hating me. I can't do that, so for me, it was a question of I either do it in one way or, I go back to, where I come from. Okay.
And you did this really, really quickly because, you're talking about the core course last year and you did ITP, I think, in the same academic year. So it was fall 2018. You did the 2019 program, January and June. And now here we are, you're doing it literally the next iteration of this program. You're getting slightly different results.
So January, the January ITP, the first session is, all my wow moments come from the first week, but mainly because the second week, already you go there with a project that you have conducted, and you do another teaching lab. There is some more stuff, but the first week is really, really, fundamental. And so after that January, what I did essentially, I started to work on the material, and not full time. I was doing other stuff. I was doing research and all my stuff. But I started to work and take a stock of this week at the ITP and start changing the material. And
love it. I love it. Your big wows, the application of the learning styles to the teaching note. I think that's something I'll steal from you. I love the making yourself comfortable piece. Ray talks a lot about owning the room and making sure that the physical structure of the place is something that you're happy with.
Yeah, Ray was used to come and shake your hand. That's what Ray, and that's is. And he said, why are you doing that? Well, it's because I'm nervous. So if I shake your hand, I become less nervous. So it's just a question. It's him become more relaxed. And yeah,
love that. And the teaching lab, getting feedback from others, and that can continue. Of course, it can continue. Listen, I've had a blast talking with you. I've really enjoyed it. And any final message for any young or experienced faculty member who may be grappling with teaching? What's the first thing they should do or consider? What advice would you have for them?
If you can follow the ITP, because it's really, really is pleasant. The people that you meet are amazing, and everything I say is different than being there and see, how a certain delivery, change the structure of the session that you will be able to teach. So the ITP is, for me, really was a major experience. I don't consider myself someone that the time is precious. For everyone, the time is very precious. But these 2 weeks I spent at ITP, the returns that I got from that were much more than the value of that 2 weeks. So as an economist, it's a good investment. Okay? The return of investment is very high. If you cannot follow, then I think it's very important when you go and teach that you are yourself, and that you construct the material in a way that student can learn, even if they're not like you. So you have to be yourself, but you need to understand that other people are not like you. And this is probably something that is utterly good to know in life in general.
Yeah, tell my wife. Listen, Andrea, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute blast. I'm going to pull in a little video now because I want to get some other folks' feedback as well.
ITP is unlike any other teaching program in the world. We want you to come to this program and learn to be the very best teacher that you can be. In this year's cohort, just like most years, we have people from more than 15 countries. We have people from every conceivable academic discipline. But the thing that unites us all is we're all passionate about helping our students learn more and more, better and better.
We teach, we research, we manage programs, so teaching is an important part of our job. I know some ITP alumni, and ITP really transformed some good teachers into outstanding teachers.
We are going through a big change at the university, and we are trying to raise the bar in teaching. And for me, it's nice to come here and have the opportunity to share with my colleagues what we can do to improve learning. It's really nice to exchange experiences and have all these very good professors giving you feedback. From now on, it seems like I'm a part of a big network that I can feel comfortable asking for help.
We coach each participant for an hour, and we ask them to teach something to a real live audience in a way that's different than the way they normally teach. It's a chance to really begin to grow as a teacher.
Within this program, we get to see a whole range of different methods and approaches. There is not one normative way of teaching, there is many possible solutions. The ITP offers a safe space to get comfortable with, for example, teaching without slides. A lot of us dream about that, but we don't dare to do it. Here you get the opportunity to practice that, and you get to see other teachers doing it and doing it well.
I discovered a very inspiring idea about the importance of the voice, the tone, and the volume in the classroom, and how to use these tools in our class management.
It was really fascinating to realize that my behavior in the classroom is my deliberate choice, and I can govern it. My satisfaction, my job satisfaction, students' efficiency depends on me, and it was really fantastic and empowering.
We in the education business live in a changing world today. There's digital, there's pressure from funding bodies, there are all kinds of waves that we face. One of the things that ITP does for its faculty is keep them current on what these changes are and how best to adapt to them so they're ready to stay on top of their game.
We have a 1-week module, and the second module is the best part of the week. And then between those two modules, we have people working on projects. We ask them to, okay, take away the skills you've learned, try and transform the way you teach by exploring some new teaching styles. Then come back, you'll show us what you've done, and we'll develop those skills further.
I can say that ITP is a sort of an adventure. You are in a safe environment where you have lots of interesting ideas and lots of constructive feedback on how you do things and how you can improve them.
If you have had some successes and have had some failures, you appreciate how some tools and instruments can help you to improve. So absolutely, I think it's a must after 5-6 years of teaching.
What we get on ITP is good teachers, and what we hope for and what we want them to be when they come out of the ITP is to be great teachers.